Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the Sean Inspires podcast. I am Sean Allen, your podcast host and transformation life coach. I am excited. I have an amazing guest that is sitting in with us today, and I'm just going to get right in and interview her by way of reading her bio, and then she'll come in right behind me and introduce herself to you, the listening audience, in her own way. So today we have sitting in with us Mignon Francois, is a #1 national best-selling author, entrepreneur, and renowned baker who has inspired millions on her journey of going from drowning in debt to building a multi-million-dollar cupcake empire called the Cupcake Collection. She leveraged her $5 to feed her family and turned it into a legacy with over 5 million cupcakes sold. Her grassroots story of success has garnered national attention from the Today Show with hosts Hoda and Jenna, moving on to Southern Living, Entrepreneur, and Business Insiders, just to name a few. She is the author of Made from Scratch, her new book, Finding Success Without a Recipe, where she shares her story of finding success with no presets in place. Mignon is a sought-after speaker and is committed to equipping and empowering people to change the trajectory of their lives. This bio is power-packed and absolutely amazing. Mignon, welcome to the Sean Inspired podcast. Please feel free to introduce
Say,
yourself.
who is he talking about? Because I love her.
Wow, this is you. This is you.
I love it. Thank you so much oh my gosh, I've done a lot in this little short time in my life. I thank you for, helping me to celebrate that.
You're welcome. My pleasure to have you on. My pleasure to have you on. So let's just dive right in. I want to start, first of all, your book. I've started reading it, and it's so golden in its content, if I could use the word for this reference, about made from scratch, finding success without a recipe. But let's dive right in. The first thing I would like to know is, what was your inspiration for becoming an author and wanting to pen such an amazing golden story?
Oh, that's such a good question. Because so many people were coming by my business and I was hearing them tell the story. And if you don't give people a story, they'll make up a story for themselves, or they'll make up a story for you. And I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny. I wanted to be in charge the things that people were saying. And so I wanted to give them tools that they could use to help to tell this story that was inspiring them, that created a craze in the middle of a city where people said it was never going to work and that no one was ever going to come. And that while I was losing everything, including the house where the business is, I was able to save myself, my family, that house. And I wanted people to know the truth behind it, that it really was a bootstrap story, that I really did take the last $5 that I had for dinner one week and gamble it on this. And so I wanted other people to know about what they could do if they believe. It was at 3 o'clock in the morning that I made a promise to God one day. If you will make me successful, I will tell anybody who will listen about what they could do if they believe. So having this book was just a bigger way for me to keep my promise to God.
Wow. And I want to talk a little bit about Joni. If I hope that I'm pronouncing her name correctly in the
Yes, you
first
are.
chapter. Joni. And as I was reading that, I saw that Joni was like a handpicked person in your um, prophetic destiny, I want to call it, to kind of steer you up and move you in this venture, that you have been having these morning meetups with God, and we'll talk about the morning meetups just next. But what was that like? And as you were telling the story and I'm reading it, I'm looking like standing on the porch, watching you go through your mind with all the things that she's pitching you this business idea. Do you think that she was strategically handpicked by God to steer you in this direction?
Not only was she handpicked by God, I think I was handpicked for her. So I always believe, and I've said this to Joni and Dean, you'll never find them in a church, probably unless my kids are doing something in one, but they are the church. I mean, these people are doing the kinds of things that heaven is made of. And I say that to them all the time. They're just out here living the life that Christians are talking about. And I don't know that they would be I don't know that they would be shouting from the mountaintops that, they're disciples or anything, but it's the life that they're living. And so I think we were selected to be neighbors and to have somebody to go through life with for both of our sake. And it started out because my children loved them. It started out because my children used to love to just vegetate on their cable. We didn't have cable, and they loved children and they loved being around children. So they just made a space for my children to be. Had she known what was going on the inside of our house, I don't think she ever would have come there and asked for such a tall order from me. But she
Wow.
always wanted to be doing her part for anybody, whatever that meant. And to this day, all these years later, whenever she comes into the bakery for the first time and someone on my team hasn't met her, she's formally introduced. And they know what they have to do. They know how to take care of Joni, they know what she needs, and then, they know what they can get. Because
Wow.
Joni is like everybody's auntie.
Wow, amazing. Let's talk about the morning meetups with God for the person
Mhm.
out there listening who is in search of spiritual connection and spiritual relationship. As I was reading through the book and just taking in all of the golden nuggets, and I myself have meetings with God. My meeting time is 3 p.m. And so
Mhm.
at that
I
point, if
love
you could,
that.
yes, it's like etched in on my calendar. It's never moved unless it's an emergency. And so in those times that you were meeting with God and having conversations, and you mentioned like sometimes not even wanting him to speak, because when he began to speak it would be so profound and presence would
Yeah.
be made known. For the persons out there listening who is looking for that direction, who's
Mhm.
hungering for a eternal connection with God, with the divine, how could they move into creating that space of meeting with him?
Oh, that is so good. All they have to do is ask. So I created this little acronym. Looks like kind of like a recycle logo. Ask, seek, knock, repeat. And what God says to us is that nobody will stop you. Nothing can separate us from him, right? And so all we have to do is ask. Every morning when I pop my eyes open, I say, "Good morning, God. Okay, what are we doing today?" And I've gotten into this pattern of asking God a question, and it can be anything. It can be anything that I want to know, anything I want to receive, anything that I want to do. And I fully expect that God will answer me before I put my feet back in the bed by the end of the day. But as I was creating these Monday, sort of insights into what my worship time looks like, I found in the Bible where David used to do the exact same thing. That David would wake up in the morning and ask God a question and expect that God would answer him. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, God, I'm acting like a king over here," And so this
Absolutely.
thing that was in my heart to do wasn't new. And that's what I hope people can hear. There is nothing new under the sun. So the things that are dropped into your spirit to do are things that are not your own personal idea, but they're God ideas. And if we would see them as God ideas, we would handle them differently. And so I want people to know that it comes like a whisper in your heart of, "Ooh, what if I did this? Or what if I did that?" And when you actually go and try it, you find that it's easy to do, or everything aligns for it to happen. And that was what the cupcake collection was like for me. As I took one step, I found God waiting for me to take another one. And I always use the example of walking with God is like walking for a baby. At first, when you do it, you're wobbly and you take one little shaky step, and then you find out that you didn't fall, and you can take another little shaky step, and then you just get stronger and you get better at it. And I believe that talking with God is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And it doesn't come in your ear, it happens in your stomach, like it happens in your gut, like that, ooh, that place where you say, "I just felt it in my heart." And for
Yes.
those who may not know exactly what I still mean, it comes in the form of your first mind. You know how you said, should I buy this red shirt or should I not? And your first mind says, girl, leave that shirt right there where it is, right? And then you buy that shirt. It ends up being a hot mess of a shirt, and you wasted your money, and you're like, now I got to go buy 12 more shirts because of the one shirt I should have left behind, right? It
Hmm.
starts that way. It starts as a little small inkling that we normally call our first mind, because we never hear anybody say, I shouldn't have followed my first mind, right? They
Well,
never say, we never say I
well,
shouldn't have followed my first mind. It's always I should have followed my first mind. And your first mind never disappoints. And that's where God is.
it's beautiful. So you have such a busy schedule and you have a lot going on. And over the past year, I want to say going now into 2 years, we've heard this topic pop up all over media, television, magazines, self-care. What does
Mhm.
your self-care regimen look like for a woman who is in demand, such as yourself?
I love this question because I'm right now recording the audiobook, and I was laughing at myself because I said the most selfish thing I do now that my children are grown is go to the grocery store and buy pre-chopped, pre-bagged lettuce. But my self-care regimen has begun to be me feeding myself well. And so I've started making sure that I break my fast with something that my body has to process, not buying something processed. So I break my fast in the morning or breakfast, right, with a thing that my body has to do the work for. So it's going to be like raw. So spinach or kale, coconut water in a blender with natural fruits and things like that. That's self care for me. And then keeping my appointment with my hairdresser every week on a Wednesday.
I
No
love
matter,
that.
no matter what. And if I have to be gone during the time that my normal session is with her, then she will either take me earlier in the week or later in the week. So that's really important to me. And I think just besides feeding myself well and making sure my hair is done, because my hairdresser and my makeup artist this year both had babies at the exact same time.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I would say I have indulged myself with being a member of like a massage indie place,
Yes.
and getting facials is something that I try to do for myself once a month. Is that
It's
a good enough
beautiful.
is that enough to call it a self-care regimen?
Absolutely. I think you have a lot of things in there. I think it's great. And it's you started out with all of the healthy components of taking care of the body. So I
Yeah,
believe you nailed it. You nailed it.
yeah.
And you have such resilient spirit, such bright spirit energy. And I just would like for you to share right now. I never use the word recession in this economic
Mm.
system because in the kingdom there is no recession. There's only
Amen.
abundance.
I'm so glad somebody else believes it.
There's only abundance. And it's all about perspective, right? And so
Yes.
for the new entrepreneurs coming up, and I have a few of them now in my hub, and I've been an entrepreneur now almost 4 or 5 years. But there's some new
Mhm.
ones coming up that have retired from their careers. And what is one piece of advice that you could give them to go against the wind of recession?
Oh, I love this question. You can look to the past to inform the future. So I created a business with no money, no credit, no knowledge of the business, no loans, with $5, losing everything that I had in the midst of an economic downturn. So we did this in 2008, which was proof that you could do it even in a recession. And so a lot of people are talking about what everybody else is talking about, but we've been very busy, and you're blessing me right now because the conversation I just finished having a few minutes before you called, this particular answer right now is really just blessing me, because sometimes God will drop something in your spirit and say, okay, well, answer that. And see now what you're going to say to me when I ask you, are you willing to do this for me, right? um But I learned in the process that we speak what we seek until we see what we've said. And if the power of life and death lies in our tongue, that means we have the ability to have whatever we say. And so when we're talking about ourselves, when we're talking about what we're trying to do, or we're talking about where we're trying to go, we have to always be able to use those things in the positive. And I met a girl today, this morning, who just, started following me on social media, and she's got my book, and I could see that she was in a chapter called Joy Comes in the Morning, Mourning. And I could see that she had just started on this chapter, and she said that she was broke. She said, I'm broke and I'm single, and I just found you on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. And I said, oh girl, you got this. Because the
Wow.
thing about it is, and what I'm hoping to tell my tribe today is, maybe broke isn't a bad thing. Maybe broke is that place where you open yourself up to receive God's blessings. Because when we're broke or when we don't see money, we have to depend on faith. And I believe that faith and money have the same characteristics. You can't get out what you don't put in from, right? If you put your
Absolutely.
faith, the Bible says that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can tell a mountain to move from here to there. And it's according to your faith, it will be unto you. According to what you have in your bank account, it will be unto you, right? And so I believe that God's return on his investment is even greater in faith than it is with money. So we're not concerned in the kingdom about what earthly money is, because that's paper, right? We have to
Correct.
just go in faith where God is leading us to go. I feel like I gave you so many pieces to that answer.
You
But
did.
I
You
hope,
did. They were all great.
okay.
They were all great answers. And I love the way you pulled it in a synopsis. You pulled it in such a way that everyone listening can hold on to it and
Mhm,
also walk in the truth of that and begin to
mhm.
practice word declaration, filling your
Yeah.
life and filling your mouth with the word so that you can have and believe that you can have whatever it is that you say. What do you
Mhm.
see coming up for you, I would say, in the next 3 years, personally and also in regards to your business? What do you see coming up for you?
Well, I'm hoping that I'm traveling a lot more in my future and speaking and keeping this promise to God. My whole existence right now is just to spread this message about what you can do if you believe, because a lot of us don't have hope. And my goal is to tell you that hope can be obtained. When I was saying earlier about broke, broke is so much more than I don't have any money right now. But the Bible says as long as you're living, you can still have hope. And the Bible also tells us that hope does not disappoint. So as long as you're alive, you have something that will not disappoint you. And who hopes for what he already has, right? So I'm hoping that I will be able to spread this message of belief in what God can do if you let him surprise you, and just to spread this message to others about what they can do if only they believe. God promised me that he would make me successful, and that as long as I didn't turn from what he had shown me, that every place where my foot would rest, that I would have ownership. And as I am the daughter of a man that was born on a sugarcane plantation,
Mm,
and knowing that I'm building a legacy for my grandchildren to keep based on sugar, is just one small indication that God will surprise you, that he will do what he said he will do, and he can. He can do
wow,
exceedingly abundantly above what we can even imagine in our minds.
amazing. Tell me, what is one of your highest joys in life?
Oh, that's so good. One of my highest joys is looking upon the face of my grandchildren. There are 8 of them, and they get so excited when I come into a room. That just gets me excited. So spending time with them. One of them likes to go with me to Broadway shows, and as I'm watching them become individuals that their parents have raised, and my children being good people in the world, that brings me so much joy.
Wow, absolutely, absolutely amazing. So what does a typical day when you unlock the business doors, what does a typical day kind of, if the audience could peep in through one of the windows, what would they see the opening of the cupcake collection look like? What would a day in the business look like?
Oh my gosh. So if they peeked into the windows at the cupcake collection, they wouldn't see me in there. If they did, somebody would get in trouble because my children had were adamant about making sure that they retired me this year. But somebody would be there, before the sun rises, and they would be cracking eggs and pulling out ingredients and actually making from scratch everything that I taught them how to do. And they would be preparing everything from the back of house to the front, including the icings, the fillings, the cakes that they would need in order to serve thousands of customers in a day. So we see, as a destination place in Nashville, we see hundreds of people every day. So it would probably shock people how small the crew is that produces the kind of volume that we get a chance to make every day. But if they were going to peek into my life, they would have probably found me on a master class at 5 o'clock this morning, screaming about, you can do it at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday with 100 people watching. That's what they'd see.
I love it. This is so funny that you mentioned masterclass because that was one of my initial questions for the interview. Did you have any plans for, curating a masterclass? And there's my answer for it. There's my answer
Yeah, well,
for it
that's
right
been something that we've been working on in the background, to make sure we can do. So a lot of people were asking, for mentorship and coaching, and I give a lot of my time away to other nonprofit organizations. And so this year I decided to be more intentional about that. And I really want to, just as I said to you a couple minutes ago, that question you have is really, really sometimes when you're talking to a person like me, you're getting transparency at its best of even I sometimes have hesitation, but I don't do things in fear. So you know how they say do it afraid? I don't believe in doing it afraid. I believe in doing it in faith. And that means going even though I don't have all the pieces, even though I don't know what's going to happen next, even if I'm not sure that a net is going to appear. I'm going to do it in faith because that's how we unlock the power of God. That's what I believe.
I love that. And it's just a perfect, you're segueing right into where I always ask every guest when we almost come to the close of the show for all the listening audience out there across the globe. And the beauty of having podcasts is it's global and you can reach people anywhere and in the airports and all over. And I always ask every guest before we wrap the show to leave the audience with a word of inspiration.
Mhm.
And I love it in such a way that your life is one built by God in such a way that even a man can see the
Mhm.
success in you and on you as I myself have.
Mhm.
And so if you could just for a minute share a word of inspiration before we close the show and then you share with the audience how they can connect with you, purchase the book, and also order some cupcakes, because I know I'm putting in my order for delivery to Atlanta. So if you could share with the listening audience some words of inspiration.
Yeah, nothing just happens. I want people to know that all you have is all you need to get you from where you are to where it is you want to be. 94% of Americans are waiting for some big event to happen in order for them to start living. And I'm submitting to you that you can start from right where you are. I opened the cupcake collection with a dorm size refrigerator and a KitchenAid mixer because that's what I had and that's what I can afford. I thought I needed some big commercial equipment, a big commercial refrigerator. And yes, those things were true. I would need those one day, but not on day one. And so day one doesn't look like day 500 or day 3,000 or 6 months down the line or 1 year down the line. Start from where you are. I want people to know that you will rot in all of your potential if you never get broken. So don't let the situation that you're in, the brokenness that you feel, be the thing that stops you from moving forward. Because at the end of the day, I believe it is in our brokenness that we can become changed. I love using the example of an egg. An egg, if it whined about being broken, never can become an omelet. It's not until you break the egg that you could mix it up, stir it into a cake, and make something that you can use to celebrate. And that's what our lives are as well. It is in our brokenness that we can become used and we can become changed for someone else's life. We're all called to a purpose. God has called us all into a journey with Him, and you don't have to wait. You can start on your journey today. And I hope that brings you joy as you get ready to exercise a little bit of hope for your future. How you find me is to follow me on Instagram, mostly at mignon.francois or at thecupcakecollection.com, where we ship our cupcakes nationwide, and on Facebook where I am Mignon Francois.
Absolutely amazing. And I say to you, may your hands continue to build and may your hands continue to prosper. And may nothing but golden doors of blessings, perpetual blessings, generational blessings flow and follow you and your family. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode with our special guest, Mignon Francois. Purchase her book from Amazon, Made from Scratch, Finding Success Without a Recipe. As I always encourage the listening audience, stay strong and stay inspired. Bye now.